Hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel named Impact of Gaming Regulation on the Economy. My name is Illya Machavariani. I'm a senior partner at 4H Agency, and today I have a very, very good set of speakers, and I was honored to be joined by Yuri Shevchuk, who is Head of Compliance and Regulation very much. Also, a trusted SBC partner and friend, Maxim Afanasyev, who is the CPO of Liga, Stavok, Russian sports betting company. And we also have Afanasyev, who is Head of Sector Research and Investment Bank, Taggart from Georgia. And given our rather interesting topic to discuss today, I propose to get practical as fast as possible. And I think that the best way forward would be to start with Bachana and with Georgia, because Georgia is a country which has a regulated gambling market for quite a long time already. And this market is competitive, transparent, and Paris best international examples out there. So, Bachana, what would you highlight as the best consequences and achievements of Georgian gambling market in light of effect of gambling market onto the government and onto Georgia, economic development and in general development of Georgia?
Hello, everybody, and first of all, thanks for having me on this very interesting panel. And you are right. In case of Georgia, we have a regulated market quite for long right now, and this regulated market gave some good benefits for Georgia in several aspects. First of all, of course, it's employment, because we are a small country, and right now gambling employs 11,000 people and offers twice larger average salary compared to national average. And so it's quite big deal for Georgia. 11,000, it's small for other countries, but for small countries like Georgia, it's a really great number. Another good factor is inbound tourism. As you know, in neighboring countries, we have some restrictions or complete ban on gambling, and we have several thousand, more than several thousand visitors for gambling purposes. And last time we had survey in Achara region, and around 80% of casino visitors came from international visitors. So this is quite a good opportunity for tourism as well. Another good aspect, of course, would be budget contribution. And right now, last year, gambling sector contributed more than 3% of total budget revenues of Georgia. So it's quite impressive number. And last but not least, it's a really good example of FDI, because of course, you know, some of the international well-known names already entered Georgia. Deals, and it's kind of largest deals in Georgian history. And also we have some national well-known names in land gambling as well. So this is kind of to sum up, all of these aspects helped Georgia to benefit from gambling. Before this, we had unregulated shadow economy, high risk for customers and toll for customers. And right now we have regulated gambling. We have laws which protects customers and helps country and government to benefit from business, to help employment, and to help growth of the tourism.
All right. And do you think that Georgian government recognizes this impact that is being done by gambling industry? Because I think that this is practically the most important thing that could happen in any jurisdiction where gambling is regulated, when the government recognizes that gambling could be, a really, really reliable source of income, source of government revenues. And after that, government, theoretically, government should try and help gambling industry to prosper in order to continue receiving such revenues. What do you think about that?
There's, of course, some speculations, and sometimes it's hard for government to protect gambling sector from over-regulation or ban, because there is some kind of speculations regarding this sector. But right now, we have access on international markets. We have a very good connection of internet. local customers know foreign sites as well. And if we prohibit or give some over-regulation to gambling, this local customers would move to international sites. So we lose money and we lose business, we lose employment. This is quite known, as I understood from government, and government knows that best there is not unregulated market, but best option would be regulation. This benefit for all sides, for business, for customers, and for government, and for the economy as well. Because we know from other countries that they have some ban, and they visit to Georgia land gambling for gambling, and they visit international well-known sites for online gambling, and they use proxy and so on and so on. And right now, today, it's impossible to restrict some access to international sites, because customers always will find a way. And another aspect, of course, would be some kind of not only shadow economy, but sometimes very large criminal when there is no regulations in the gambling sector. So right now, I think our government sees that this is best option for all sides and all stakeholders.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for this insight about Georgia. And well, I think that all attendees understood that Georgia is a quite positive example of the collaboration between gambling industry and the government. And now I think that we need to discuss, well, a little less positive example, and I'm talking about Russia. I want to Maxim, and Maxim, I would like to ask you, well, first briefly cover how gambling industry and sports betting industry in particular helps and impacts the Russian government and Russia in general. And the second question that I have for you, and I think that I will ask this question for everyone here on this panel, is what in your opinion Russian government could have done better in order to ensure that gambling industry would help Russia to its possible maximum?
Hello, everyone. Well, I think we should start with we should go back to 2008 when things were changing quickly and gambling was banned. Actually, sports betting was also under a big risk of being completely banned. But thanks to the dialogue that we were able, I mean, not us, but one of our founders was able to create with the authorities. We managed to convince that we should keep sports betting, and one important thing was created back then is an understanding that sports betting is not gambling first of all, but first of all it's the way to support sports, national sports in Russia. And this is where things started to change. And over the last 12 years, a lot of things changed, and I think for the good. First of all, I think we are on the right path saying that sports betting is the industry that supports sports today, the sports federations, and this should be, and this is improving year on year. Of course, it was a tough path because it is always, our industry is quite complicated, and it's hard sometimes to explain that, for example, you cannot charge, I don't know, regular 10 or 15% on the turnover, although for a majority of other industries, turnover would be the right parameter to set a tax on, but not for gambling and not for sports betting. So there were tough days, tough discussions where we were also at risk. But I think generally today we have quite a good setup. We do a lot of sports support, and apart from taxes that we pay on a regular basis, every bookmaker in Russia does sponsorship of local teams, and not only big teams but also lower leagues, which is great in my opinion. That provides additional cash flow to those leagues and they really need it. But I should also highlight that I think general trend worldwide is that the regulation becomes more and more tough, and the conditions are becoming more and more tough. And Russia is not an exclusion here. We've recently seen changes to the regulation, and starting from October, we are now paying 5% on tax. That's not a tax, it's a 5% targeted, special targeted contribution to sports federations from our GGR. Previously, it was 5% on local sports only. Now it's 5% on all sports. But there's a new thing that is currently emerging. Precisely 1 month ago, there was a board meeting that on sports development, on the Russian sports development, that involved Russian president. So he was also there, and he was part of the discussion. And Ministry of Finance declared that sports betting contributed more than $15 million over the last 1 year as this targeted contribution to sports. But he also mentioned that it would be great if this figure could be at least doubled. So, and just a week ago, we received like sort of a minute of this board meeting, and there were like things to do, like from Mr. President. And one of the points there stated that these targeted contributions should be at least doubled for in the nearest future. So we are expecting that we will be, I mean, it's going to be tougher, and we will be paying more. It's a bit unclear on how much we're going to be paying in the future, but because, of course, you can push and pay more, but there's always a limit when at some point it will not make sense to do this business. So we really hope that we will find a good conversation with the government and with the authorities, and find the golden middle here in terms of what we will be paying. Because again, like I said, what is important for us is that this industry is perceived as the industry that supports sports, and a big word when I mean sports federations, youth sport, and so on. And I think this is very important.
Okay, thanks a lot, Maxim. I will get back to the increase of special targeted contributions a bit later, but now I want to bring in a little bit more of a global perspective, and I want to ask Yuri about, well, this would be a more general question, but what do you think is the best way for gambling and government to collaborate? I mean, would it be some direct and rather simple and blunt contributions or taxes, or do you see that the most critical and the most important thing is the creation of additional places for people to work, or increase in a general increase in the economy? What do you think is the most important and the most right way for government to collaborate with the gambling industry? And I'm certain that you can share some regulators' perspective, some government's perspective as your head of regulatory and compliance in the global company.
Yes, okay, of course. Hi, everyone. That's the first that I want to say. Happy to be here, proud to be here. Wanted to start, yes, maybe globally, let's focus on this region, because we are also operating in Belarus, in Russia, we have license in Georgia, we planning to operate in Ukraine. So mainly, what is the main problem when country doesn't have a proper regulation regarding? It is a big hole. It is not a hole. It is not only a hole in tax regulation. It's not only hole in the public sector. It's also a hole in the overall government policy. Because in terms of money laundering and risk financing, if in government this sector, gambling sector, is out of scope, it means that it is potentially a high-risk sector, and it is a highly potentially risky country. And to make investments in that country, to make some kind of interactions in that country, it's particularly dangerous for other countries, for investors from all over the world. So mainly it's a hole in the government policy. And of course, when we want to develop gambling, we also develop other sectors of the economy. So, for example, casino, we develop hotels. The last interesting thing that happened in Ukraine when a consortium of big investors bought one of the biggest hotels in Kiev, Dnipro, and they stated that they want to create the first in the world big cyber sports hotel. Hotel where everything will be for esports. So, and it was also combined and also linked with the gambling legislation, with legalization in Ukraine, because actually on the basis of that hotel can be also promoted casino or something like that. So mainly yes, but in Ukraine we have another problem, because actually we all understand that it is the law that was brought by Supreme Rada actually is a dead-born legislation without proper amendments to tax legislation. So it was already discussed today, but let's repeat, because maybe somebody from government of Ukraine hear it and he must understand that we push as hard as we can, because actually without it, we will be not comparable in regards to international operators. So yes, mainly it's taxes, it's social responsibility, very important, social responsibility, and the whole world is moving in that area, because we can, there are other models how collaborate on social responsibility, government and actually association of local gambling companies. For example, we can see in UK, they actually negotiate. So we see that now in UK, there are some bullet points that let's restrict amount of money that can be played by non-due diligence players by £100 per month. Another one is let's restrict or ban all marketing advertising on sport clubs, particularly football clubs. That's the main two things that are negotiated, and there is no final decision. It moves month by month, and they are discussing another social and charities. They are giving their opinion, and another part of it is Gambling Commission, it's EFL, it's England Football Clubs Federation. They say that no, we need this money. Actually, it is a lot of money that contributes to sponsorship by international operators, and simply it will be a lack of financing of league, because we know that England League is perhaps the most and the biggest, the most successful in the world. So, but on the other hand, we see the latest things that's happening in Spain, when by one degree it was placed total ban on marketing, on advertising, on football clubs, and this is the last season when sport clubs from Spain, like Sevilla, Barcelona, they can take money from sport betting. So actually, that's another point, and we need to figure out what is the best. From my point of view, the best is also negative, to take over table and just to discuss what problems may cause gambling legislation or cost, and to discuss how we can pay attention and how we can mitigate all the risks that it lays. Because we can take from more, I would say, older legislations and older from older regimes like UK, what they have, what restrictions they have, but it doesn't mean that in our situation in Ukraine and Russia, they will work properly. Maybe they will cause problems that that is highly unexpected. That's the deal. That's how it looks like from my point of view now in the world.
Well, thanks a lot. And actually, I think that you have brought up a very interesting case that I would like to discuss with all of you. And this is the case of Spain banning sports betting advertising. And I think that, well, obviously, this is a rather bad thing for our industry. But what do you think are the arguments of the government here? Because this is obvious that for Spain football clubs and generally Spain economy received a lot of money from sports betting companies for sponsoring Real or Barcelona. And what was, in your opinion, what is the reasoning behind this decision? Because I think that if we understand together why government choose to restrain the industry rather than allow the industry to develop within the boundaries that are set by the government, then it would be better for everyone. But nevertheless, as absolutely correctly mentioned by Maxim, we see the general trend in Europe and all around the world that gambling regulations are becoming more and more tough. And well, from Spain to the global level, what do you think the reason for the governments to scrutinize gambling industry? I think that we can ask Maxim here, and then I would also like to hear some input from Yuri on that.
It's a very tough topic, in my opinion, but I think there. I would probably speak of two issues here. So first of all, like I said, the industry generally is quite complicated, and in order to regulate it properly, I would say that it is important that authorities either have an understanding, a very deep understanding of the industry, so that they feel that the regulation is done correctly, so that there's no cheating on any sides. And this is very hard because it's a very, I would say, unique industry in that way. So or another option is that they might have some advisory which they can trust to create this regulation. But at the end of the day, like I said, the industry generally is quite complicated, and there are a lot of backdoors. Hard, I think, is very. This is like what we were talking earlier. Like there are a lot of gray market. There's a big gray market, like right, and it is very hard to monitor that the money are not flowing in the other direction. So I would say there are a lot of uncertainties and it's not clear how to do it properly and have the full control over the industry in a particular country. Now, but another thing, that's my personal opinion, that we are generally, the world is moving towards like being very social, very socially responsible, and this is where the tricky part is, because no matter what we do as an industry, we will always be perceived as the industry that takes money from regular people, that they lose money, and no matter what we do with about our brands and everything that we try to do, like support of the sports, we will always have this stereotype of the industry that actually is not social. And that is against the society. Let's call it this way. I'm just trying to be quite open here, and I think this is where we will always meet problems, because generally I think it is very hard for authorities and politicians to accept and openly speak that, okay, the gambling industry is good and we have to find a dialogue, because that would mean that a lot of their support, they might lose a lot of their supporters that will never accept, even knowing that the industry will provide money to support sports or any other areas of economics. I think it is very hard to convince regular people that it is for the good. So I think this is something that we will be always fighting for, and this will be a big, and it will only become bigger.
Well, great. I fully agree with you that this is probably the most, the most complicated issue here is the battle between, social outlook of gambling being, with our industry being the bad guy, if I may say so, versus, its economic benefits that it could bring to the table and to the government. And as promised, Yuri, what do you think? Why governments choose to scrutinize gambling rather than regulate it as much as possible and obtain as much revenues as possible? Why is this happening, in your opinion?
It's a very interesting thing, because I think there is a background for social responsibility, social trend, and it is seen from all over the jurisdictions, especially in Europe. If to say, we can look in USA and we can see that there is empty field of responsible gaming or societies or something like that, associations that can control responsible gaming. And we'll have in future situation, I think that in 2-3 years, large operators from US that will capitalize soon a large amount of money, they simply come here in Europe, they will be buying a lot of operators, big operators, very simply, because all the social responsibility and trends, they are leading margins down, and of course is not a good situation. Restrictions, especially when we see restrictions on credit cards, restrictions on amount deposited, on amount of bet, of casino bet, and so on and so on. But in terms of Spain, yeah, it's first of all it's trend. Another maybe coronavirus. It also influenced the situation, because now it is also talked a lot that actually gambling is a source of social interaction between people, and people they simply substitute things that they were doing previously, going to a cinema, to the theater, or even going to a park, they substituted by playing in gambling. So actually such kind of things and awareness that gambling operators have, for example, in La Liga, it also bothers another companies, because we understand that who is Barcelona and Real. Usually they on their t-shirts advertise not only one company, a lot of another companies, aviation companies, financial sector companies, and they are not really happy of being also advertised with the gambling sector. So that's another thing, social interaction that might cause such a problem in Spain, because actually it might be a problem even for our countries in future, for this region, that they also will ban advertising, for example, football clubs, for other clubs. And it is a very pity, because if to compare with the sponsorship money, with sponsorship support that have, for example, Russian clubs and Ukrainian clubs, and to compare it with England, with Spain, it cannot be compared. So actually, our clubs, they need this money, they need sponsorship money. So I think the government must protect this, or not to negotiate it in the nearest 5 years or so. That's my point of view.
I also agree with you here that it was your earlier point that CIS region is really different compared to other countries, and one should not just simply use the gambling frameworks that are existing over there and try to implement them here. And speaking about social responsibility of gambling industry, Bachana, could you please tell us how this is handled in Georgia? Because you mentioned salaries, you mentioned tourism, but are there any social contributing responsibilities on Georgian operators in place, or it's just not so direct payments to the budget that helps the society, or there are some, I don't know, direct obligation to help the community, to give back to people living in a particular city or stuff like that? Is there something like that in Georgia?
No, right now, very good question. Right now, we don't have some kind of regulatory requirements for social contribution or something. But no, right now, companies understand that this is really important. Communication with government, communication with population is very important because, as other panelists mentioned, it's becoming quite a problem. There is pressure on government. It's more popular to ban something than estimate potential impact on economy and estimate pros and cons. So right now, companies started these social responsibility campaigns, responsible gambling campaigns, because you know that local companies and we have international companies as well present in Georgia. So this is right now I see that this is kind of a movement from gambling companies. They see that it's important to have this kind of communication and to show government that they are socially responsible and they need more communication, I think, with the government because as Maxim and you mentioned, government sometimes does not understand the sector because it's very complicated and they only see that this is gambling. We have a lot of problematic gamblers and this is kind of bad for the society. But on the other side, there is 11,000 people who will stay unemployed. There is a huge contribution to the economy, and then this money flows to, for example, healthcare, universal healthcare, or pension, and so on and so on. So this is kind of one is indirect contribution to social causes, and another is involvement from the companies. I think in this kind, there is not necessary to be kind of regulatory requirements, but I see this process more like more communication between government and companies. I understand it's hard, but I think companies should try harder to discuss it with government, to discuss it with and activist groups, and to find some solutions, because this problem of over-regulation or complete banning is becoming quite a problem right now, and we should estimate pros and cons, as I mentioned before doing so.
Well, it seems that we have a ready-to-go action plan how to make gambling industry more alive in CIS. Is just to try and communicate as much as possible that gambling industry is cared about society and about the community. So I guess thanks a lot to Bachana. And I think as a last question on our panel, because we have a little less than 10 minutes left, I would like to hear all of your opinions about the practically, well, one question that I have for you is that given that there are a lot of countries in the CIS which are now working towards the legalization, which are now either creating a market from scratch like Uzbekistan or Ukraine, or amending their existing regulations like Russia, do you think that in the future, of course, maybe not now because it's coronavirus pandemic and so on and so forth, but do you think that in the future it is possible that a certain country in CIS could use gambling industry as the main driver for the economy? Let's start with Maxim.
Can you specify what exactly you mean by main driver? I think this is very important to understand.
I mean, the gambling industry, no, for instance, like it was on Malta before European Union started to regulate gambling actively, then gambling industry was second or third in overall list of industries in Malta contributing to the government.
Got it. Well, I will speak for Russia, and I think it's an easy question for our country, and and of course the answer is no, because for many years historically, we are the country that mainly relies on natural resources, and I really doubt that things will change in the nearest future. I would say even in the middle or long-term future, I really doubt that gambling might become so strong and that it might be considered as the main industry for the country. But I believe for other countries, like for example Belarus, where especially like for this country it might work out, and other small countries it might be a good fit. But for Russia, definitely no.
All right, yeah, for Russia, it's absolutely true, yeah. So let's get back to Bachana. What do you think? Is it possible that gambling industry will become a pivotal and main driver for Georgian economy or other CIS countries, for instance?
Okay, as I mentioned previously, land gambling is completely driven by tourists. So we are trying to position as our tourism is quite a large contributor to our economy, and this was increasing till coronavirus. And I see this opportunity, and I see that we have some kind of tourism zones where we have some even incentives for gambling. We have like large hotel, you get a casino license for free, and this is kind of good incentives. And we see, for example, Achara region is a good example as a tourism destination for gambling. And I hope maybe Georgia could become some kind of regional hub for high rollers in terms of casino, because maybe small Macau or something would be great for economy. And not only in gambling, but as tourists when visit Georgia spend money rather than so. And of course, the gambling sector is spending this money with contractors, and they have quite large intermediate consumption, so they help other sectors as well. And I would say same for regional countries. I know that some have natural resources, and of course they feel safer. But for countries like Georgia, we don't have a lot of natural resources. We have to be logistical hub for region, for like financial hub for the region, and maybe let's be gambling hub for the region, because yeah, it's bringing money. Let's be frank, because we need we have developing economy and we need economic growth. And we don't achieve this by natural resources because we don't have any export, unfortunately.
All right, thanks. And finally, Yuri, what do you think? Is it possible that it could be the main element of CIS country economy?
It might be for little countries, for example, as Georgia, but for Russia, as for now, no, because we understand there is only betting legalized and casino, no. For Ukraine, it might be in some particular regions, because we see that might be a good collaboration between, especially in casino, because we have historically a very good relationship with Turkish investors, and they can build hotels, they can build roads, and they can build infrastructure, and they can bring money, because actually we understand what situation in Turkey are. So maybe they will join, and it will be like casino tourism to Ukraine or something like that. But mainly if we compare with Malta, maybe it's Georgia. Yeah, because we understand that Malta is a little island that was built actually, and its economical strength for the last years, it is linked with the gambling. It is linked with the digitalizing and so on and so on, with cryptocurrencies. And they want to be the leader in Europe on this field, but the other countries of the European Union, they're also looking at them, and they are saying you cannot do anything that you want being in the European Union. So they also have restrictions. So that is, I think that when I need to end, but actually we have no time.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're out of time, unfortunately, but this is a really, really interesting discussion. I honestly have a lot of questions to ask, but unfortunately, yeah, we need to wrap it up. So thanks a lot for your participation and for your thoughts on this rather complicated topic. And I hope that in the future we can discuss, we have another panel, similar panel in the future, and that we would have a more positive discussion than gambling becoming, a social industry and helping governments and government loving gambling and allowing it to prosper and to being developed as much as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.